One of the most tricky money to manage is that money that comes into your pocket in unpredictable manner. Let's say you're employed somewhere, you get paid. For example, let me use myself as an example. For those who have been watching me for quite a long time, I was in the interior business where I used to paint and what have you. And the availability of the jobs or the money that you make was dependence with the availability of job. For instance, you can have a whole week, you are in job, you're working, you're getting income, voila, everything is good. All of a sudden, boom, another week, you aren't in job. Another whole month, you're in job, working, everything is good, you're having nice life, boom, then the next minute, you don't have nothing. Sometimes you can even make a very big amount of money, or should I say a huge chunk of cash. But the point is this: see, you having sort of a roller coaster kind of emotion. You have a lot, then you have nothing. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of a thing. So how exactly can you plan such kind of money so that at least you don't get this roller coaster kind of emotion? Because people ask me, hey, you know what, Joseph, I'm not employed monthly. I cannot even assure you that tomorrow morning I'll have the next amount of money. But how can I actually move myself? How can I budget this kind of cash? If you're that kind of an individual, it is your time. This is the video for you. All what you need to do is to just relax. But before you do that, come on, let's have a promise. I'm going to share valuable information on this video, and the only thing I want you to do is to make sure that you subscribe. How do you subscribe? Down below there next to my followers, or subscribers should I call them, you find a very small button written subscribe. It is in black. Hit that magical button and make sure that you like the video. Imagine those two things does not cost you anything, all right? And I'm going to share a substantive information. Yes. I'm waiting you to do that. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Now here you are. You're earning in an unpredictable manner. I have the points here. We're gonna go the point number one. See, the very first thing that you're supposed to do is to create a buffer zone between when you have the money and when you do not have. For instance, let's say you're a mason, all right? And say your job is not predictable. Say you earn like 1,000 shilling per day, all right? Or you're an electrician or whatever you are. Now, what you're supposed to do, the moment you realize that you're having the consistency, for example, you can go to a site, and we used to look at the site that the bigger it is, of course, the longer period you're gonna spend there. So what you do is to create a bigger buffer zone. What does it mean? When you are in job, when the income for now, it is consistency, save a lot. When we say save towards having what we call an emergency fund. And I think I should have included that, emergency fund. What does it mean? Set aside amount of money. For instance, let's say in a month you consume 30,000. Let's say if somebody gives you 30,000, everything is catered for: the food, the shelter, the clothing, the electricity, all the utilities, transport, and what have you. If in that particular month all the things are catered by 30,000 and that money is coming in, throw that money towards an emergency fund. Throw it towards an emergency fund. And when I say emergency fund, this is not just savings. This is an area where it is giving you income. You've already invested. It's an emergency fund, yes, but it's also invested. For instance, you can pick an MMF, which keeps you liquidity. Because I remember one thing: don't go buy shares and call it emergency fund. Don't go buy bonds and bills and call it emergency fund. It is not. Emergency fund is the money that you can access it, and you should, and you must access it within a snap of a finger. You have your money. That's what you're supposed to do. So don't be having, oh, I buy shares because they are my emergency fund. Now that is not exactly how it's supposed to be. So create that buffer zone. What does it mean by a buffer zone? You see, even when, let's say, there are sort of a war somewhere or countries are fighting, there is that. Okay, let me not use the word. It's quite a for those people who live close to a forest, let's say by government, the government says, so this is where the forest or the forest reserve reaches. So let's say we have like a kilometer, not even a kilometer, that's too wide. Let's have something like 60 meters between where the forest reserve is and where the people have built. So in between there, they cut down the trees and they actually sort of plow the land so that in case there is a fire outbreak from the forest reserve, it cannot cross over to where we have the residential. So that area between the forest reserve and where people live, it is called the buffer zone. So your buffer zone here, it is that amount of money that you've set. Let's say you've worked for a whole month, everything was good in that that particular month and you are saving in an emergency fund, and then all of a sudden the job is not there. So therefore you have the money to sustain yourself before the next gig shows up. What people do is that when you have the job, you're squandering the money. That's the time that you are throwing parties, you are drinking all the time, you know, left, right, and center, and what have you, and boom, there is no job, then there is no food, there is no nothing. You cannot even cater for the basic things. So create that buffer zone, have that money stock. And by the way, that is exactly what I used to do it. Okay, so and there's some guys who are used to ask me, Joseph, how do you do it? You seem like you always have the money. Not that I used to have the money, no, you actually try to understand. Right now I have the job, I do not know how tomorrow it's gonna transpire, and you cannot create that buffer zone as much as you can. Let's go to the point number 2. Sort out the anticipated expenses first. What are these expenses? Me and you, we know them, all right? These are your rent. Pay them as fast as you can. And by the way, there's this thing we call the gas, this gas that we used to cook and whatever. See, in Kenya or in Africa, it is not piped like in the US, whereby if you run out of credit, then it is continued. No, it is disconnected. No, here we go and change with those, you know, those cans, those whatever. If it's empty, you take it to wherever they give you another one. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. So, and I don't know whether you've ever seen this, yeah. When you work in such kind of an environment where the cash or the money is unpredictable, you realize that almost everything they finish at the same time. The rent is due. Oh my goodness, the shopping or the grocery is due. The gas has ran out, and then you realize that you have a lot of things that need to be catered for at that particular. Like you are in a cash crunch. You really need money to cater for all those things. That what you do, you cater for them when you really don't need them. And this is how I used to do. So let's say, for example, I've done my shopping 1, 2, 3. I've left with like 200. So I take the 200. I take to that place where we refill the gas. I give them the 200. I don't need the gas anyway. Just give them that 200, that extra coin. Then they write me a receipt. I go back with it home. Let's say another day I come. I have another 300 that quote unquote unused. I give them. Then they write another 300. So maybe refilling of that particular, sort of a can or whatever. I don't know. I'm looking for a better term. Maybe let's say it's 1500, and I've already done that. So whenever that thing can actually, sort of, finish without me having the cash, I simply have all my receipts, take them there, paid for my thing, then you get it. Are you getting the concept, what I'm trying to bring forth? See, cater for the expenses that are there. If it is possible, you've gotten some money here, you have like 2,000 extra, 4 or 5. Instead of going drinking, so you pay that rent in advance. Give them that 2,000. Tell them, hey, just keep this one, yeah, for the next month. You get another 2, keep that one. You get another 1, keep that one. By the time you realize you've actually paid your house rent like a month upfront, like 2 months upfront, or something of sort. But if you know you have the discipline, you can throw that money in an MMF whereby it is giving birth to some other small babies. But if you know you have the problem, just give it to the landlord, just give it to the landlady, and such kind of a thing. So if it's about the school fees, you do the same. If it's about the food, the whatever, you do the thing. If it's about clothing, always try to cater for those anticipated expenses that you know you cannot shake them off. Cater for them as fast as you can. In case if the money runs out, at least you can eat. You have a little bit for transport. There is food in your house. You've paid the rent. There is the school fees and all those other basic things, right? Let's go to the point number 3. Adjust saving patterns based on how the income comes. For instance, you are getting 2,000. Maybe you, out of the 2,000, you can manage to save 700. So you're saving 700. And then all of a sudden, a good gig comes in. You're getting 4,000. Double the savings. Do not program your head and tell yourself, I actually saved 700. Now I've gotten the 4,000. I'm still going to save the 700 and I'm going to enjoy with the rest. Come on, you don't do that. You save, you double, adjust with the pattern. And then let's say you earn 2,000, then all of a sudden it's 1,000 shilling. And maybe say you earn 700 shilling, then adjust. When you earn less, that you can adjust towards the downward. When you earn more, then you adjust towards the upward. So when you make more, save more. When you make less, obviously, save less, but make sure that at least you've saved something. So when you have that kind of a roller coaster thing, you're creating yourself a buffer zone. Like for example, the cars that we drive, there is always that shock absorber. It makes sure that it absorbs the shock, it absorbs the shock. Maybe when you hit like sort of a ditch or say a pothole or what have you, it just absorbs the what? Absorbs the shock. So that money that you're saving, it absorbs that shock, so you never get an injury or maybe a breakout along the way as far as the finances are concerned. You're getting something, and if you're getting something, remember we had a promise. You make sure that you like the video and I share the promise, or I share the value on this video. All right, let's go to the next point. Okay, now the point number 3 or 4 rather, say remain flexible to your day expenses. Just remain flexible. By the way, I don't know whether you know this. You may not get the point that I'm about to share, but if you can get this point, you are smart and you're destined for the greatness. Do you know what they say? Most of the people who are wealthy, who are rich, and who are wise, they are flexible. They are just. If you go to Rome, you stay like what? Do what the Romans do. So the ability of doing what the Romans are doing, it is actually a wisdom. Not most of the people can adjust to that extent. So when I say remain flexible to your daily expenses, remain flexible. By the way, I don't know whether you know this. Do you know 2020, when the COVID-19 hit, a lot of people were affected in their jobs. And that was a really test of how people can behave. And I used to see people, or back then I used to see people with their own cars. They have actually gone to the markets and they are selling the groceries. They're selling. People actually, so my goodness, how can I even say this? Just be flexible. Be flexible. See, when you become so rigid in life, you're gonna hurt yourself. Just be flexible. Move with the tides, move with the tides, move with the tides, and be smart, be smart, be smart. Okay. Reduce or avoid committed loans. Now, how can you even afford to take a loan which is committed? You've told them, hey, give me 300,000, then I promise you each and every month I'll be paying you 17,000. Who told you? Where will you even get the 17,000? First of all, your income is unpredictable. Why are you committing to a commitment loan? Why are you committing yourself to a predictable? You already know. See, these loans, they don't negotiate. They need their 17,000 each and every month. For your income, you're not even sure whether you'll even get anything tomorrow. So avoid these commitment loans. And this is what have got people into problems. Not until you get yourself in a situation whereby you really, I don't want to use the term 100% sure because there is nothing like that in the investments and businesses, but at least you've done your own calculations. If I get this loan and I channel it towards, now the problem that you can again do that I've seen a lot of people doing, you go get a loan to go and build your home. First of all, you have unpredictable income, so you've gotten a loan to buy a parcel of land to build your own home. Now you wonder, my friend, how will you even pay that loan in the first place? I tell people, if you want to take a loan, make sure that 2 things. Number 1, you have a predictable income. 2, you have an alternative way of, paying that loan in case the plan A that you had to take that loan and start a business fails. You people, if I share with you some of the DMs that I usually get, on this phone, sometimes, yes, you're here to help, you're here to serve, because it's what the mandate that God has given me. But at the same time, you feel like you can even call that somebody somewhere. You give them whips. But you say, no, maybe they didn't know. We go to the next point. Obviously, the last point actually. Work towards creating a system that will generate you a predictable income. That is the utmost, the best thing you can ever do if you're in a predictable income. What does it mean? Accumulate that money, accumulate that cash, then start something like a business where now you're moving towards unpredictable kind of life, towards the predictable one, where you start something. If these gigs that I do, let's say maybe you're a plumber. See, plumber, in Kenya, see, plumbing job relies of you knowing, I don't know, foremen and engineers. I don't know, they connect you where. Let's say there is no job of such. Let's say like for an entire stretch of the week, there is no job. Then you can be in your business, maybe selling the plumbing materials to other people who have the job. You get what I'm saying? So the best thing that you can ever do is to get into the business. or get into the investments where there is a cash flow coming in, whether you are working or not. So that is exactly what you're supposed to do. And when you incorporate these things, then guess what happens now? You're gonna actually have an easy time towards achieving what you call the financial freedom. This is Good Joseph speaking, and I do post videos pertaining to investments. And if you'd like to get a hold of me in any of my good services, go ahead and grab my number from the description of this specific video. Give me a call. We can talk business for now. It's a goodbye. See you in the next one.